shower and wear deodorant. It's a long day. Hey everybody, this is Space Marine Steve here at Hyperspace Hobbies, and I'm here with my good friend Ian. How's it going, my friend? Great. And Mr. Michael Buns and the Buns of Steel are here with us today to talk about tournaments. What? He does have Buns of Steel.
Your sportsmanship score just dropped.
Just dropped? Yeah, no!
I'm giving him a higher score now.
Oh, yeah. So this is about getting ready for tournaments. Mike and I are actually going to a huge tournament. We're going to the first U.S. Open, Tacoma.
Can't wait.
Yeah, I'm very, very excited. I think that, it's a slog fest of a tournament, though. Like 8 games over 3 days.
It's gonna be a long one. This is my first tournament this year as well.
Whoa!
I know, so that's part of why I'm so excited. I'm jumping in both feet this time.
Yeah, this is all what that's about. Yeah. You're going whole hog into this.
That's how I hog.
We're talking today about how you actually get ready for tournaments. Like, we're going to, what I would say, like, the biggest of the tournaments, right? There's the Las Vegas Open, which can be 6 rounds or more, depending on how well you do. But this, everyone plays 8 rounds. Friday, 3 rounds. Saturday, 3 rounds. Sunday, 2 rounds, and then we drive home.
So what are you guys doing to prepare yourselves for this absolute blast of an event?
Squats. So many squats.
One up top.
The ladies love it.
The ladies, they love it.
There's a huge myriad of things that you should really consider when you're going to any tournament, whether it's an RTT or a multi-day event. There are some steps that can really assist in getting a nice, clean, full event for yourself without getting things lost or confused on rules.
I think at the top of the list, like, you want to secure, like, I was told once by another player to always protect your fun. Right? And I love that phrase, because what it means is, like, you want to keep how you enjoy the game and how, like, other people play the game with you at the core of, like, everything that you do in the hobby. And so ways to, like, protect your fun at a tournament would be making sure that, you know, you're personable and open, you've showered, and, like, things like that, like, you know, you always start, what did you say? Like, start and end with a handshake.
Yeah,
right?
Start and end with a handshake is a great way to just breeze through your games. You make friends. I don't know.
Yeah, like, that's exactly the point. Like, I think that going to these big events, they're social events, because the game is what has brought us all together, but ultimately we all have to, like, kind of live together in this shared space for a really long time, and we want to enjoy that. The games are supposed to be fun, and so, like, while it is a competitive event and you want to win, like, ultimately, like, there can only be one winner. Most of us leave that place a loser.
We're all winners, Steve. I don't know what you're talking about.
We're all winners. No, but
just for attending.
Just for attending. If you play all 8 games, you are a winner. You've won the event. Like,
I agree with that.
Yeah. If winning the event is at the top of your list, like, the likelihood of you doing that is actually, like, what, 1 in, like, 380 or however many people that have signed up for this event. The chances of you winning the whole thing are so low, it shouldn't actually be your focus.
But if that is part of your goal, what do you think you should do to try to get to the top table? Okay. I think one thing for sure you should do is study the biggest, baddest army that's out there currently. Whatever is topping the charts, you're going to see it when you hit those high tables. So do a little bit of research, figure out what that army is, get a little bit more knowledge on that army if it's something you're unfamiliar with. That way, when you come to face it in a top table, or even could be your first game, who knows if you get that luck of the draw, then you have more knowledge and have a better way to counter them.
Be prepared to deal with it with your own force.
Yeah, totally.
Almost like, you're not saying list Taylor to beat that, because sometimes you could be a trap, but have something in your list that can address that problem.
If you tech for the best and then beat the rest, that's like a phrase that gets tossed out.
It's got a nice rhyme.
It's got a nice, right? But what it is it's like, okay, you know what the winning army is. Take a couple tech, inclusions that go, like, I know I'm going to hit, like, for example, like Mike and I, the likelihood of us running into a Blood Angels player is very high.
Yes.
Because Blood Angels, right in Pariah Nexus, the way that, the Ministorum Manual and the update and stuff like that kind of helped and unhelped other armies, Blood Angels have kind of just risen to the top of Space Marine land.
They play the missions well.
They play the missions really well, and they hit like trucks, right? So the thing is they're hyper aggressive. They steal a lot of real estate, and they're annoying to deal with. And so because that's the case, we're probably going to run it. Like, I would imagine that over 8 games, we're likely going to run into at least one Blood Angel a player apiece.
I'll be playing several Space Marine players. I know that.
Probably, yeah. Like, so I know that, like, that's one of the best armies right now. And in my head, like, you know, that's something to I've really looked into a lot because I know that it's likely I'll play one. So that's my research. Now, how I do that is I look at different websites, tournament results. There's lots of tournament result websites and stuff like that, tournament discussions. A lot of like podcasts will talk about like upcoming tournaments or tournament winners. So there's lots of resources online that you can kind of look
at the
for.
Simplicity of it. Google what has been winning tournaments in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah,
done.
Because that is going to help you a lot. And then just look over the lists. And if you can too, like there's so many like live coverage on YouTube and stuff like that of major events. Like there are so many different battle report channels out there that cover competitive gaming that you can go and you can look at live streams of tournament result games. You can look at like simulations and stuff like that where people kind of do practice games. Like I know Tabletop Titans does that kind of stuff a lot.
Mid-table Tactics does live games all the time. And you get to see like just watching how somebody plays an army that you might be worried about.
Yeah.
You can pick up a lot of easy tactics, see some stratagems you're not too familiar with.
Yeah.
And also sometimes stratagems get used in weird ways. You can maybe try to figure out what one or two of them you're like, it's not so much of a gotcha when it does come up.
What to expect when they arrive. Right?
Yeah.
And that's part of the planning ahead, right? With these high competitive lists.
Exactly.
Not being surprised by some shocking ability that they have.
Yeah, totally.
Every army sort of has a counter in a lot of different ways. Mike, you're bringing Tyranids to Tacoma. What are you worried about? What is going to counter your list in the Tacoma kind of setting?
So mechanized lists have been big in 10th edition.
Yeah.
Tyranid aren't great at dealing with that. They're quite effective at dealing with infantry, but generally armor or lots of monsters they're not particularly good at dealing with. I have sorted out ways to do it, but it's definitely my bigger bad that I have to worry about.
Yeah.
I mean, they did go to strength 10 with when most attacks are strength 10 in Synapse, right, for the big monsters.
And that makes a huge difference.
Yeah but still, as soon as there's that toughness 11
or toughness 12 or
moving
whatever.
around, toughness 11, toughness 12,
yeah,
that becomes a big problem. Yeah.
But my list is more built around scoring and playing and board control than it is around killing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was my workaround.
And I know, Steve, you're doing your Anvil Siege Force.
I am, yeah.
And you've sort of teched that into how Pariah Nexus works a little bit more.
Yeah, I have.
Dumping a little bit of slow-moving stuff, putting in a lot more fast, expendable units to try to get objectives done and get table presence.
Yeah, I have. And then I also tried, because something that has been difficult for my list is sometimes I do really well into like more vehicle or mechanized lists, the same kind of thing. But I found that from the previous time we talked about my Anvil Siege Force, if you haven't seen that video, go and check it out. I really love my Anvil Siege Force, and I think it's really, really cool. So you can just scroll back in that and check out that video. But what I've done now is I've taken out the Predator and I slotted in a Vindicator because the Vindicator is really good at removing like elite infantry. For example, things like big blobs of like Meganops. It's actually really good at that because it's AP3, does D6 damage, right? And I can fight through their feel no pain.
It's also quite a bit tougher than the Predator.
Quite a bit. That 2-up save is a big deal. It's a little slower, moves 9 versus 12 and stuff like that. But for the most part, it also hits a lot harder, right? And so with the Imperial Fist strats that I can use to give it like sustained hits and stuff like that, you can tear down an Imperial Knight no problems. And Imperial Knights are a real problem for me. So I'm teching into what my army's bad at, right? Like you said.
Yeah.
And so, which really though, like you're not going to know what your army is really bad at until you get the reps in. And I think that's the next thing.
That's a big one for prepping for a tournament is play your list a bunch of times so that you know all your rules, or at least most of them, without having to look it up.
Yeah.
And then just be comfortable with how your tactics are going to work out versus a myriad of opponents. If you're prepped for that beforehand, you're not going to be surprised when you missed a rule or something like that.
Absolutely. I think that in terms of like getting all of your reps in and like how to effectively practice like for an event, I've seen a lot of players kind of like start the practicing process and go, oh man, like I played this game a couple of times and this unit really didn't perform, or it didn't do the thing I wanted it to do. And what happens is you get the urge to change it. And it becomes a very slippery slope, because the closer and closer you get to an event, the more you want to like just shoehorn in something else or swap something out because it's not quite working in every single game, in every single example. Is it worth you playing something new less than a week before the event? Right? Like I wouldn't dare change my Anvil Siege Force right now. We're less than a week away.
Yeah. How many reps do you think you've gotten, and how many reps do you think you've gotten with your lists already?
I think I've had 6 now.
Oh, okay.
And
Good.
then today after this, we're playing.
Yeah, we're going to test it again.
And that'll be 7, but that'll be 2 with my final version, which is almost the same.
Yeah, you're those little tweaks are acceptable. Like, but if you were changing out like 500 point sections, it's a totally different list.
I don't think you need to get 6 games in, but 3 or 4 with your list to solidify all your rules in your head, how your stratagems are going to work out. That I think is a more acceptable number. You want to get about at least a minimum.
Yeah, I think it depends on what your overall goals are and what you want to accomplish come event time. So, for example, the list that I'm playing now, the game that we're going to play after this will be my 10th game with it.
10.
Yeah, and now with that being said, like I did take it to a local RTT, which is a Rogue Trader tournament. It's a small 3-round, 1-day event. That's kind of what is defined in RTT. If you ever hear that acronym anywhere, event is that I was able to just practice it against random people, random armies that the two of you don't play and stuff like that too, and test it out in like a little kind of miniature tournament environment. I wouldn't get 10 games in going to an RTT. I would use an RTT to get as many games in as possible going to this 8-round event. So like the interesting thing about your experience, Mike, is you're about to go into a scenario where you're going to play more games in this event than you have played with the list going into it, which I don't think is a bad thing. Like I agree with you. I think 5 or 6 runs is like probably enough. Plenty. It is plenty. My goal with this is to be so adept at playing this Anvil Siege Force that I have a strong winning record. I would love to go into day 2 undefeated. Because if I win my first 3 games, for sure everyone looks at that Best Coast Pairings app and goes, Anvil Siege Force, what is happening? No way, it's got a 26% win rate. Not possible.
Well, Steve has been putting a lot of effort into making it work.
I have been putting an obscene amount of effort into it.
And that, like, knowing your army, playing all these reps, that pays off not so much in the first couple games. It pays off on the 7th and the 8th game.
It does.
Because you're brain dead. You've gone out partied with the boys for the last 2 nights. Yeah. You woke up early. You're on your feet all day, meeting new people. All that stuff's draining your batteries. And on day 3, when you're on your last game, you're going to be absolutely fried. Yeah. So it definitely is going to help you cruise through those later games.
It will. So the reps help you with everything.
Bring your book.
Bring your book.
If you have a book, bring your book. If you have your cards, bring them. It's very important.
Yeah, what you don't want is to have someone go, hey, would you mind if I read that, please? And you go, I actually don't have any of the rules, and my phone is almost dead, so I can't take out the... No, absolutely
Faux
not.
pas.
Yeah. Bad news. You need someone to be able to access those rules, because sometimes you have to prove things.
Yeah.
Right?
And it would be annoying to call the TO over to get them to look at one rule, because you're just going to be like, well, you might as well just stay here, because if this guy doesn't have his codex, I might ask 2 or 3 times.
It's a part of that common courtesy.
Yeah.
Right?
Pay your army.
Yes, you do need to do that. Well, I mean, you don't need to do that, actually.
I prefer you didn't, but I also appreciate coming to a game where both armies are painted. It helps with the immersion. Yeah, it does. And I want my 10 points.
Yeah, you need those 10 points.
You need those 10 points.
If you want to go to the end, you need those 10 points.
In a competitive setting, you may as well have lost.
Yeah.
And then, of course, if you're going to an event like Tacoma, will give you like a mission pack when we get there. Fingers crossed they give us the cards. But they're going to give us a mission pack.
dropped the ball on
dropped
this
the
one.
ball a little on that one, but that's okay. What they did last time is they handed us a mission pack, and it had all the rounds, and all the cards had all the different missions and layouts and everything that you needed on them, along with secondary cards. And so I hope that they do that for us again. And then, when we get there Thursday night, we can kind of like take a good look at it, look over all the missions, know in what order they're all going to come, and just be prepared for it. Make sure you read the mission pack, because that'll give you your rounds, like how long you actually play for, what layouts you're playing on, what missions you're playing. So make sure you give it a good look.
Would you suggest going to Tacoma, a big tournament, for your first tournament ever?
I see no problem with doing it. In my experience, Steve's been to a lot more tournaments than I have, because just how my life works, I can't go to a lot of them. They're almost always extremely positive environment. People are all there for the same reason. They want to have fun. They want to play a game that they love. And you're surrounded by people passionate about a hobby that you love. And everybody wants to talk Warhammer, which is a thing that we very rarely get outside of hanging out with us. Like if you're with your friends, normal friends and family, nobody wants to talk about Warhammer.
What do you mean normal friends?
Yeah.
You know what I mean.
But less normal friends.
At a large tournament or a small tournament, you're going to be surrounded by people, like-minded people, that just there to have a good time and talk about Warhammer.
Yeah.
And if you are new, this is like an absolute fast track highway to knowing your army better and knowing other armies, learning the rules. Nobody cares if you show up and you go, hey, I'm really new to this game. I've only played it 5 or 6 times. Here's my army. They'll be like, awesome. Well, if you have any problems with anything, let me know. I'll try to help. Like, that's sort of the environment I've always felt when there's a tournament. And when I've gone and someone's like, I'm really new, I go, okay, well, did you at the end of this, we can talk. And if you want to sit down for 5 minutes, we can go over your list. We could maybe move around some things to help you score better.
You want to be a little lenient with people. You're always going to find the one person. You're going to meet one person at every tournament
every time
who really needs to win, and they're going to maybe be a little bit miserable if you're beating them, or they're going to make things difficult. You just got to roll with it. Keep a positive attitude best you can.
Yeah.
And but 99% of the people you meet are going to be fantastic. They're going to give you some leeway. You're going to give them some leeway, and you're going to have great game.
That's going to be it. You want to just try and keep that positivity rolling through, and the kinder you are with your opponent, and the more kind of like welcoming you are to the game in general, like people are going to love that. So, if you're brand new and you're not really sure, just like go anyways and see it as a huge learning experience. Even if you lose all 8 games, right? Like it'd be a great learning experience.
Still have a lot of fun rolling dice with new friends.
Absolutely.
Does Tacoma have like random prizes or, top painted or anything like that?
They do. They have like showcases and stuff like that. So they'll ask you like at the end of day 1 or day 2, can you, put your army for the showcase, right? Like, and then you leave your army kind of out and set up, and then
cool.
Yeah.
This will be my first GW sanctioned event, because they haven't really been doing it for a long time.
Mike's used to the underground scene.
That's how I like it.
The fight clubs. And Games Workshop actually does put on some really good and very welcoming events. They really want the games to end naturally. They don't really enforce the whole clock thing, so it's a little less pressured. And so I think that going to one of the Games Workshop sanctioned events is actually a great place to start going to the larger events. But there's lots around. I would go and check and just see what's in your local area and check it out. It's definitely worth going.
I am Ian. This is Space Marine Steve, and of course this is Mike. Thank you so much, and like and subscribe. Get into the comments about your tournament experiences. Good game. Good game.
Good game. Good game. Good game.
Good game.
Good game.
Good game.
Good game. Good game. Good game. Good game. Yeah.